It's now 3 in a row for the Florida Panthers losing in regulation after 4 days off. And we asked the question, is it time to panic?
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Friday, March 22nd edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at Monoman12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your first bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So the Florida Panthers, after 4 days off, go into this matchup where now the Nashville Predators have gotten points in 16 straight games, but it was a complete no-show for the Florida Panthers as the Preds played a complete 60-minute games, all three zones. The Florida Panthers came into this one without Aleksander Barkov in this one after what we heard was 100% ready to go, but was ended up a scratch on the night for the Florida Panthers. And this was not even close, even though the scoreboard indicated that in the middle of the game. But it is a Friday, which means it is a Fairbanks Friday edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Nich Fairbanks is back after the Florida Panthers drop this one to Nashville, 3-0 at home. Kevin Lankinen making 33 saves on all 33 shots that he faced on the night. And Nick, tough times for the Panthers in this one now with the lines being in a blender. The zone time was dominated by Nashville, and it's just the Panthers' inability to get to the front of the net. I'm going to give you the floor for your opening statements on this one. So welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thank you. I wish it was under better circumstances because Fairbanks Fridays are usually fun, but this might be one that's not going to be so fun. So here we go. That was probably absolutely the worst effort from this team this season. Understand that your leader's out. Understand that Kulikov's out, even though that, to some that shouldn't really matter. But you have your goaltender bailing you out and making saves that he shouldn't be making right now. He's kept you in every single game. And over the last 5 games, you haven't deserved to win any of them. Something's going on. Either somebody's sick, people have injuries, but the motto of this team is next man up, and they don't give up. I didn't see any of that tonight, and it's very disappointing. And I'm sorry for the fans that had to go there and see that for this whiteout, occasion, because the team was trying to bring everybody together. But you can't leave Bob out to dry. I think that's what I'm more mad about right now, is because he is so close to Hellebuck, in my opinion, of actually trying to get a Vezina. And people will call me crazy for that, but the last few games, they're letting it get away. Yeah, he's bailing them out, and it's just not doing anything for him. So those are my thoughts initially.
Yeah, and when you think about the numbers of goals that go to the back of the net, if people just look at the box score, I mean, you'll see that Connor Hellebuck is probably gonna this last stretch is probably gonna be the nail in the coffin for the Vezina Trophy race for the NHL. But like you said, the whiteout game, it was marketed pretty well, which even Pantherland out in Fort Lauderdale for War Memorial, they were announcing that season ticket holders could even use their discount there for all their merch. That's an announcement that we heard today. But for the Panthers in this one, I mean, you think about where the lines were in a blender. Tarasenko is back on went on the third line. I mean, you start this one with Anton Lundell with the top line with Verhaeghe there, and then midway through the first, you have you have Verhaeghe back with Bennett and all, and then the D pairs were just mixing and matching. I mean, you saw a good amount of Forsling and Montour. That's something that we can't be surprised of when we saw when we knew that Kulikov was going to be suspended and all. But then all the miscommunications. I mean, you see Josh Mahura on the wrong side of the defense when he's on the right side when they're going back into their own zone and then losing a battle. I mean, I can't blame if any. Uvis Belinskis, I'm not going to put any blame on him. First game back on the NHL level and all, but I mean, just sometimes you saw the Panthers try to cheat for offense when they're up in their own zone. I mean, there was one play where Nyquist was up in front, and then Kevin Stenlund was protecting the net while OEL and Mahura were up above the hashes too. I mean, man, it's just so many miscommunications. But at the same time, I tell myself, I mean, these guys these pairs are pairs that are not playing with one another a lot. And also, I think about this when it comes to zone time, and Jameson Olive mostly pointed this out. I mean, the importance of Barkov when it comes to face-off wins and then time in their own zone, which, I mean, after period one, it was, I believe it was 71-29% Nashville, where that really made a big difference as far as time in the zone. I mean, midway through the second, I mean, it was said offensive zone time 8 minutes and 30 seconds to 5:20 in favor of Nashville. I mean, it was just pure domination. That top line by Nashville, Nyquist, Forsberg with 2 goals on the night. I mean, they made the difference. And Roman Josi, I know he went to the box twice, but he didn't for the majority of the game. They put a stat where it was 8 shot attempts and none of them went on goal. I mean, got to give credit where credit is due. I mean, Nashville's hot. We know the story of the U2 concert that was canceled. Which, by the way, we're doing a contest, a giveaway for winner has a choice of a Scott Mellenby bobblehead or a Pavel Bure bobblehead if they guess all the references from my Thursday episode with Ann Kimmel. But that's besides the point. And just when you think about it, it goes back to your point of next man up. I mean, yeah, you can't replace the talent when it comes to it. When you think, and I'm kind of 50-50 when it comes to next man up, because you just can't replace what Barkov and Ekblad bring to the table.
You can't, but you definitely have energy, and you can at least try to do something that's productive instead of losing board battles over and over, losing faceoffs. Like, you have to adjust. And it just didn't seem like the Panthers adjusted at all. They were chasing the puck. They couldn't catch passes. And, to kind of go off of your last show and everything like that, the Panthers are on a street with no name right now. It's just, it's unfortunate. And you just really saw how much this team misses Barkov. We call him Silent Death in the chat because he does these little things and you don't really notice him in the scheme of the game. I mean, he'll backcheck and he'll steal a puck. He'll make sure that Forsberg, he wouldn't have been running around tonight like he was. Just those kind of things that Barkov brings to this game that puts the other team in check. No, you're not going to replace that, but you can put in effort. And, I can't say any line tonight was successful. There may be spurts here and there where they got some shots. Just, it wasn't enough tonight at all.
For outside of Sergei Bobrovsky, I believe the standout performer of the Panthers, even in this losing effort, the one that I can't crap on is Gus Forsling. Gus Forsling was putting everything on the line. He was there was one sliding play that took away a shot from Phil Forsberg as he was gaining the zone, and I saw how great he was breaking out the puck on his own too. So that's if there was one guy for me to say that I'm not gonna call him out as far as performance, it's Gustav Forsling too. When it comes to that, but everyone else you didn't see really anyone taking over on the night too for the Panthers. I mean, they're and even the power play for the Panthers. I mean, they were starting to get kind of get it together in the beginning of the second period, but then it was just misconnecting for the Panthers too. There, I mean, and even Paul Maurice. I mean, think about think about what he said in the intermission, in the middle of that interview. Just one question, and it was short, and you could tell he was not happy. Where he says, "Oh, we're a rush team. We're playing like a rush team, and we're not a rush team." And I'm like, "Ooh." So it goes back to the whole cheating for offense that they're trying to do. I mean, and even Kevin Weeks was talking about how at the end of the game, I mean, you got to get activate your D and try to get them something there too. So it's like, difference between activating it towards the end. And I mean, you saw it with the effort. I mean, he didn't even pull his goaltender towards the end to even, he just knew that this one was in the bag for the Panthers. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2. We're going to discuss more of our 3 stars of the game and when we thought this game was won or lost. We're going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. And no matter how the last game went, anytime you take the field, you've got a shot at greatness. Give your team the best shot at winning by recruiting more MVPs with Indeed. If you're hiring, you need Indeed, because Indeed is the hiring partner where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Indeed is your only job site where you're guaranteed to find quality applications that meet your must-have requirements, or else you don't pay. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites hoping to find candidates with the right skills, you need one powerful hiring partner that can help you do it all. Indeed partners with you on every step of the hiring process. Find great talent through time-saving tools like Indeed, instant match assessment, and virtual interviews. Indeed makes it easy to hire great talent according to ComScore. Indeed is the #1 job site worldwide, and Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to Talent Nest. Start hiring right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Offer valid through March 31st. Go to Indeed.com/lockedon to claim your $75 credit before March 31st. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you the can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Back on this Fairbanks Friday edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, where the Florida Panthers are coming off a 3-0 shutout to the Nashville Predators at home, where it doesn't get easier for them. And they got a little bit of help tonight in the division with the New York Rangers going into Boston and winning 5-2, where Artemi Panarin got a hat trick at the TD Garden tonight. And now, if the season were to end today, it'll be Florida, Toronto in round 1, but the Florida Panthers do still have 2 games in hand on the Bruins with 2 more matchups. So still a chance for the division crown. But 3 stars of the game. This going to keep this quick. Kevin Lankinen, #1, Philip Forsberg, #2, and Gustav Nyquist, #3 are mine. Don't need to elaborate any further as far as this one. Those are the 3 stars for as far as this one.
I'm going to move this along quick. I have no objections to any of those 3 stars at all. Those 3 players were the most noticeable during the whole game and were the difference.
Yep. So probably the quickest 3 stars we've ever named on the show for this one. As far as when we thought this game was won or lost, I feel like the moment that the referees went to review for the Forsberg goal on the power play is when I thought the game was won or lost for the Panthers there. I mean, the very first replay that I saw, it told me nothing, that his stick was over the crossbar. Once we saw that redirection in, and credit to Tyson Barrie for noticing that seam out in the middle, and then Philip Forsberg redirecting that puck in. And I mean, it just goes to show right again that of the Panthers' inability to protect the middle. Like I've said many times now in the last week, this is unlike the Panthers about what they haven't been doing as far as protecting the middle. I mean, all of them have been from close range. I mean, you saw Nyquist go from the corner, try to redirect it off of Bennett and Forsberg there on that third one that put the dagger as far as that. But it was really the review, because even before that, it was just uninspiring for the Panthers as far as their play. I mean, and God, and like you said, putting Sergei Bobrovsky out to dry. I mean, and think about the save that he made really early in the game on the 2-on-1 off Ryan O'Reilly. Where he sticks out that left leg. And also, I mean, Kevin Lankinen also had a great stop on Matthew Tkachuk, reaching out with the leg too later on. But my moment is still the power play goal by Philip Forsberg that went to review, but nothing on that review told me that it was going to be overturned.
So I'm going to go earlier than that, and it actually has to do with the first goal. Bob was saving the Panthers bacon in the first period. They could not get control of it at all. And you just had this impending doom that, hey, if they don't get control of this or ice it or whatever, it's going to be in the back of the net. And sure enough, they can't clear the house. And they have 2 or 3 Predator players just chipping at the puck. And it comes right over to Nyquist, who's got basically an open net. And Bob actually almost got it with his skate, miraculously enough. But I think right there, just for me, I was like, okay, Bob's doing everything. The team really isn't here. And they get a dirty goal like that. Panthers don't really give up dirty goals like that. It's usually something that Bob can't see from the point or what have you. But tonight, that goal just showed me that they're going to get outworked and they're going to get outmuscled. And that's essentially what happened the rest of the game.
Yeah. Also do want to say that Derek McKenzie did get some recognition from the crowd at Emirates Bank Arena for returning. If you were wondering why Andrew Brunette did not get one, he got one last year when he was an assistant coach with the Devils. So Derek McKenzie was not in the NHL last season coaching, so he got his welcome back too. What do you think about Nick Cousins and Jason Zucker dropping the gloves? Part of me was thinking that it was all settled from their matchup when he was with the Arizona Coyotes back. I forget the exact date, but a few months. It's like over a month ago, if on the top of my head. But obviously he's been traded, but now dropping the gloves really early on in the game.
I love it. I was at that game against Phoenix, Arizona.
Hey, they're trying to get a new arena in North Phoenix, so it might make sense.
Hey, bring it back. Bring back the Phoenix Coyotes, please. But no, I was at that game because within the first 10 seconds there was 2 fights. Mm-hmm. That's old school hockey. I love it. But no, from a hockey player standpoint, I love it because that the team allowed Nick Cousins to take care of his own business. I understand that Zucker kind of paid for it when he was with the Coyotes, but Nick still not in. He was either scratched or he was still in concussion protocol. I do like when a player is able to kind of, atone or at least have a shot at kind of redemption and everything. And I'm glad Zucker actually took it on and everything, took it like a man. So I was happy about that.
That game was on January 24th. Actually, funny enough, 2 days after the Florida Panthers went into Nashville and won 4-1. So crazy the connection there when it comes to that. But it's like for this one, I mean, it's just once again really really hard to process when now for the Panthers. I'm trying to think of the exact number because now I think this is now the 6th time they've been shut out. I mean, Minnesota, Carolina twice, Vancouver, Seattle, and now this. I believe I'm missing something as far as that. I've spoken about the lack of 5-on-5 scoring for the Panthers, how they're in the bottom third. But then you look at Nashville. Thankfully, the Panthers don't need to face them unless miraculously they're both in the Stanley Cup final. And they're number 1 in 5-on-5 since that whole U2 debacle for them. But how concerned are you about the 5-on-5 play for the Panthers, even with all these ads at the deadline? Because ever since the Calgary game, we haven't seen much of that offensive punch from Tarasenko.
No, we haven't, and I think that's kind of disappointing. But for this game, I'm going to give him a pass, honestly, just because of the line blenders. And he's not playing with anybody who he's used to. Barkov's out, Verhaeghe's out, things like that. Or Verhaeghe's not out. He was not playing with Verhaeghe. Sorry. I'm not concerned right now. I have a thought that the team is trying to stay healthy and they're just trying to get into the playoffs with as little, issues as possible. A lot of us, who talk about the team wanted to know when this team was going to start facing adversity. Because let's be honest, we thought the beginning of the season was going to be the adversity, and they flew through it. It seemed like it was never an issue. Now, when we're getting down to it, when the games really matter to other teams, this is the adversity that the team wants. You're going to kind of see what the team is going to be for the next 15 games, and you're really going to see if this team has it. We think we've had it the whole season. What if we don't? What if this was just, we kind of outdid ourselves the whole season and now we're just on E? So this is why I tell fans, on Twitter all the time, be humble of where the team is at and what they're doing, because what we're seeing right now, they could be kicked out of the first round the way that they're playing. So to answer your question, I'm not panicked yet, but if we see another 2 straight games of this, I will start pushing the panic button.
Yep. And let's continue that panic conversation. Ask ourselves this question: is this the worst loss of the season? Also talk about what they are saying post game in the locker room. We're going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And say goodbye to busted brackets, because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney, whether you're betting on the big upset or a 1 seed. It's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's gonna win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Once again, that is FanDuel.com/lockedon. Third and final segment here on this Friday, March 22nd edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Friday. Once again, the Florida Panthers are coming off a 3-0 shutout loss to the Nashville Predators at home. And Nick already spoke about it, how he's not in a panic, but depending on what happens this weekend. I mean, this was going into this one, we knew it was going to be a kind of a gauntlet of a schedule to begin with, because every single team is either in a playoff spot or fighting for one, because back-to-back games in the weekend, with still New York trying to battle for #1 in the Eastern Conference. Even though the Philadelphia Flyers lost in overtime tonight in Carolina, which they scratched Sean Couturier for now the second straight game for them. And just, I'm also not in a panic. It's funny because when I went on the Cats and Rats podcast, I said that my panic meter was at a 4. I've raised it up a little bit. Now it's like at a 5, 5.5, getting closer to a 6. If they get shut out again, which we saw what happened last time they went into New York. It was a pure really dominant performance last time, but things can change very, very quickly in the NHL. So I also discuss more about this. Discuss about that as far as what can happen in a season, and also the fact that it's going on now. Thankfully, it's going on now, and remember, and I remind people again, around this time last year was when the Florida Panthers lost 4 straight, when they lost Bennett, and they had that back-to-back in Detroit and Philly, too. So Paul Murray said this. This is what Jameson Olive tweeted, saying, "Quote: Right now we're a rush team with no speed, which wouldn't relate at all to the team you've seen in the past. You're as good as your last game. I've got a lot of faith in them, but I'm going to find a way to get it out of them." Close quote.
That is a coach waiting
to scream. He wants to scream at his team.
Like, I just imagine him back in the Toronto game. No,
he might have not done it in the open, but he bleep, 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 bleep.
I guarantee you, if they look like this in the first period in the Rangers game, we're going to have another video of him screaming. And I mean, what more is he going to be able to do? Again, like, you have your goaltender going, you have your best player out, and it just seems like nobody's really putting in the effort. Are they coasting? We don't know. But you can tell he's at that point where water's about to boil. Like, you see some of the bubbles. Are you going to put a spoon on it so it doesn't go over, or are you going to let, the potato water go over and, wreck your stove?
Another comparison as a Hispanic is once you put the rice in the cooker, are you going to keep it on high, or are you going to put it on low and leave it on for 25 minutes? Are you going to keep it on there to ruin the rice? So what's gonna happen there? Because I think that will be good. I think whatever they have as far as video session tomorrow, or whatever they do there, as far as a closed door meeting, whatever they decide to do, who knows what kind of jump that we're gonna see from the Florida Panthers. I mean, yeah, after the it's crazy because I wonder if Maurice compliments them too much after what happened in the Dallas game, as far as liking how they finished, but them not playing well in the first 40, and then a great 40 after not so good 20 in Tampa Bay. You wonder if he complimented them too much and they got a little too comfortable as far as thinking they could get away with this.
I could see that. One thing I will say about Maurice is he doesn't like to make the team's head too big. He always tries to be modest, or he tries to back down on anything that they're trying to heap onto the team. Like, oh, you guys are the best team in the NHL. You guys can beat anybody. He's always like, well, we still have things to work on. I think he was overall happy with how the Dallas game finished. I would be. They won. They scratched and clawed a win out. The Tampa Bay game, yeah, I liked our effort in the final 40 minutes. Is it the result that we wanted? No. Do we have things to work on? Oh, yeah, we got a lot of things to work on. Okay, so what about this game that we just had? Yeah, we're not a rush team, and we're trying to play like one tonight, and we don't have the speed. And, I don't have too much to say after that.
The fact that he said it twice in the middle of the game and then again, it's like, hello, like, wake up call for this team. Yep. And thankfully on March 21st, at the time of we're recording this, going into March 22nd, it's happening at this time, to probably get a little kick in the rear end when it comes to that. Final question for you, before we get out of here. Is this the worst loss of the season for you? Because I think of a few, and I'll give you a selection, and you give me your answer. Home against St. Louis, home against Winnipeg, tonight, or the road game in Vancouver, or other. What would you say is the worst game of the season?
It's a very good question. I like to be consistent as much as possible, and I like to double down on my takes. So I'll say this one, just because I felt that if the team would have just put in some more effort and actually tried or did something that would have changed this game, they could have been in it, and they could have given themselves the chance to win. The other games, St. Louis, no, that wasn't happening. Vancouver, no, that wasn't happening. What were the other games that you mentioned? I'm sorry.
Winnipeg after Thanksgiving.
No, definitely not. That team is built. We were not handling that night.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely tonight, just with how close I think the game was on the scoreboard, that if they would have just got one and put that effort in, it could have been a much different game.
Mm-hmm. Part of me wants to go this one, but I also want to not be so much in the moment too at the same time. Part of me wants to say that St. Louis game where let's not forget that the only goal that happened in that one was Etu dumping it in, going off the glass and in, where Joel Hofer tried going behind the net, which funny enough, his name is spelled Hofer, so he's playing like he played like a Hall of Famer twice, once, excuse me, against the Florida Panthers. But you know, this is up there as far as worst losses of the season. And also in the Vancouver one, it was off the rush and turnovers in the neutral zone, which had Sergei Bobrovsky unfortunately getting pulled and chased in that one. But this is up there. As for those of you listening on YouTube, feel free to comment below on what you think is the worst loss of the season, if it's this one or if it's another one. Just what do you guys think about this one? Because you know, it's a bad stretch, not a bad season. That's kind of, I know we haven't been super enthusiastic in this episode. We can't be so upbeat after a performance like that. You guys even heard it when I first introduced the show. So it's but hey, we come here, win or lose, regardless. So that's the great thing about doing this show, that we talk about the good and the bad, but it's mostly been good. So it's a rarity, Nick. It's been a rarity that we've had one of these, and
for sure.
I'm glad that we don't have these often.
No, I mean, this could have been us like 2 or 3 years ago when, I mean, you know, we were just trying to get in the bubble, or, you know, we got lucked in, you know, but yeah, I mean, you know, you're going to have cloudy days, you're going to have rainy days, and then you're going to have your sunny days, you know, like I thought today was a pretty good day, you know, sunny. It was crisp out. I mean, I'm from the north, so I like it, not humid, and you could feel the air, you know, blowing against you. But, you know, you can't always have those kind of days. So hopefully, you know, this stretch, this path that they're having, they'll learn from it and they'll be better because of it.
And word to motto, it was not a beautiful day for the Florida Panthers. But Nick, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Tell everybody where they can find you online, my friend.
You guys can follow me on X. I hope you guys will be able to tweet back at me. Go ahead and give me a follow, because it's about to get spicy if Florida doesn't do anything this weekend positive. So hope to see you there. And Armando, thank you for having me on again.
Thank you once again. And those listening, if you do want to enter our contest for the Scott Mellenby or Pavel Bure bobblehead, and if you're not on Twitter, you could always email at lockedonflapanthers@gmail.com. If you could identify all the YouTube references from Thursday's show, we will reveal our winner tomorrow. But Nick, thank you so much once again, and I will see you next week as we recap the Islanders game at home. So see you, my friend.
See ya.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On AHL network, including Locked On AHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone, and Steele Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Nich Fairbanks, and you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.